for parking problems.
Four in your 23.
Yes, that's 4, I'll get a 28 on truck when you're ready.
Go ahead.
The line truck, White Lincoln X-ray 985, should come back up next.
So you had 2000. Patrick Spalding.
10-4, if you can just put a little note in the, something like that, I'm going to be leaving a note on the vehicle advising him to remove it.
Rockingham 505. And shipping Dillison case for Athens, clean it, soon to be X, slash her tires, and has made threatening comments to her. She's concerned he might return.
And forgive this at 32.
10-4. You're assigned to a vandalism case in Athens. Did you copy the 505?
Yeah, 4.
All right, hey guys, we're back. So for everybody that emailed me, I sent out the link, and so it's probably been about a minute, so you should just be starting to get it. But everybody that's a regular here is welcome. Welcome and very welcome. So what we'll do is just all you have to do is click that and make sure if you want to come in and speak with us, I'll probably ask you, but I won't bring anybody in that they don't want to. But if you're not sure, just don't connect your camera. So Nema's here, for instance, and she's not connected, but she can hear me. So that's good. So this should work. This is the first time we're trying this. So I'm just trying to find a way to give back to the people that have been supporting the channel for a long time. And I'm not sure what's the best way to do it. But yeah, so we're looking. So this is kind of cool, though, because this will be a pretty small. Actually, we got 64 people. Wow, that's a pretty good turnout. That's like, we only have like 100 members, so that's like a 60% turnout. That's pretty good, guys. So welcome. That's a surprising turnout. Does anybody else have a drink? Hopefully it's not just me. This is the one I the other night I went over this. This is a Carlsberg Pilsner. And so I had one of these, was it like a week before Thanksgiving? Really, really good beer. First time I ever had it. And this is my second time. Actually, it'd be great if someone does come on and talk with me, because then I can drink a little bit more. Otherwise, it gets kind of hard to, whoops, and see, I will have an accident eventually, knocking it over. All right, so we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Looks like it's a little bit easier to look through the questions. We're up to 71 people, and then also a couple people behind the scenes backstage. So I got a sneak peek at the Celtics, and they're in a 2-point game. We do have a few Celtics fans here. Tough one to miss tonight. Milwaukee Bucks. That's always a big game. We used to have a guy that was a regular here called Bucks and Six. I think he's a free Karen Reed person, so we don't see him as much. But he was a pretty good guy, and his screen name was Bucks and Six. RL, you made it. Great. After we had to try to figure it out. Rena, good, you made it too. Yes, so remember, I think, yes, you are. So it says, do I pay monthly? Yeah, if you're willing to. It's only like I said, I'm not doing this to raise money. So if you don't want to pay that, just get rid of it. And anytime we do these, I will send you the link and you can come backstage. So anybody that's our regulars here, we're not trying to make money off them. When you set up the YouTube channel, you have to set up the membership tier. And so I set it at the lowest levels. But then I never campaigned for it. Then all of a sudden people started signing up for it. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? I have to give something back to them, right? So, wow, we're up to 87. That's a ridiculously good turnout for 91. So we're at like 91%. Oh, we got the private chat here too. And this is from Nima, who's backstage. Says Carlsberg is Swedish and Danish. So Nina is in Sweden right now, and one of my best friends, and not someone that follows the channel because she's not into true crime, is a screenwriter. Her name is Pia, and she is also from Sweden, but she doesn't live in Sweden now. She lives in Florida. So many people made it. It's kind of hard for me to be reaching out to them. There's too many names to mention, but they're all names I recognize. So it's really good to see you guys. Wow, it's amazing how many people I've got to meet through this project. So that's one reason to keep it going. Really, really good people that we've met. So Sunny Spirit is backstage. Sunny, give me a signal if you'd like me to let you in and speak to the crowd. Do you have any interest in that? Thinking maybe you might because you have your own channel too. So we have Nima, Andy, and Sunny Spirit backstage. Sunny might be willing to come in and express some of her thoughts. Let's see. Oh, I'll check the backstage and see what she says. Oh, she says yes. See? Hi there, Sunny.
Hi. How are you?
Very good, very good. Let me turn my speaker down a little bit. So do you want us to call you Sunny, or your name is Michelle, right?
Yeah. Just call me Sunny, though. I think that's better.
Okay. And
Confuse it.
welcome to Yellow Cottage Tales.
Thank you.
It's good to have
What are
you
you
here.
guys talking about?
We haven't actually picked a topic yet. So, in the first show, we talked about the origins of the third-party culprit theory, and we went over the first motion by the defense where they outlined their conspiracy theory, basically.
Okay.
So what? So you're in Florida, right? So what initially drew you to be interested in this case?
Honestly, I was completely wrapped up in the Idaho case, and it's under this ridiculous gag order, and I had done as much research as I possibly could without I was driving myself crazy with it, so I had to get off of that, and I heard just a tiny bit about this, and it was just happened to be the trial was starting, and so I decided that I would try to watch it for like a day or something, and then I got wrapped up in it because I saw I saw what was happening, and I was like horrified by what was happening to all of these families and John's family and the witnesses and Proctor and just everybody just getting it just horrified me. So I started my YouTube channel based on that just because I was like I want to help so bad. I don't know what to do. I was like I got to call the feds. I just but I was just like I can't. I just have to try to be an advocate, I guess. And so that's kind of
Right.
and it's just horrifying. So, and then I kind of got into the whole innocence fraud thing and tried to like figure out what this really was because I saw what it was, but I didn't understand like I didn't understand how deep it was. And then,
Mhm.
so I guess, like, I would like to discuss just briefly how important Judge Cannoni's, do you pronounce her last name Cannoni or Cannone?
I think Cannoni, the way you said it, I think you said it correct.
Okay, Cannoni. Her ruling on the Gretchen Voss stuff, that is so important. I mean, I wanted to just like have a celebration today because I feel like that is the actual really important thing, ruling and court procedure that has to happen in order for people to understand. Like, I just feel it's so important to help stop innocence fraud, because the whole idea of this, like all of this, I'm not a political person, so I really am having like an existential crisis with how much emotion I have into this already. It's so
Mhm.
much to me. But the the politics of all this innocence fraud crap that happens after people are convicted, it's just gross. Like the Menendez brothers and all of this, these cases that were happening when I was younger. So I know the backstory, and now you have I mean, because I was always a bleeding heart too, and I would fall for these things. And so I watch these younger generations of these people who are advocating for it and thinking that they're doing a good thing, but they don't do their research, and they don't like look at the court documents, and they don't actually try to look at the facts. They just believe the spun story, and it's horrifying because these people, like, there's so many movements now to get really dangerous people out of prison or to prevent them from going to prison. And it's like, these people are going to be our neighbors, they're going to date our children, they're going to be our
Sonny, let's
teachers.
see if
And
we got someone else in here too. Let's see if she wants to.
oh, okay.
I let her into the room. I'm not sure if she wants to talk. Jennifer, did you want to say anything to us too?
Yeah.
Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi,
Did you want to
Jennifer.
talk to us at all?
Yeah.
So what would you like to say? This is your first time probably live on the world of YouTube, right?
Hold on, let me cut my light back on.
Probably live on the world of YouTube, right?
Yeah, this is my first time live.
So one of the things that'll happen, I should have probably mentioned this to people earlier. If you do come on, if you have it, try to use headsets or some kind of phone jack or something like that, because if you're playing with a speaker there, you'll get this kind of feedback thing. So it's just something to keep in mind if anybody tries to pop in. So we'll see. Just keep your speakers down as low as you can, Jen, and hopefully it's not too bad. And we'll try to get through it. So you're down in Pennsylvania, right?
Yes, I'm in Pennsylvania.
And how did you first become interested in this case? Do you follow true crime a lot? And
I actually do follow a lot of true crime. This was the first case that I started to follow. I heard about it in 2023. And then I just got, I was never for Karen Reed. I was always against her. I never believed the conspiracy theory or whatever. But now I'm into it, and like every true crime case, like I was talking about earlier in the chat, I was talking about the Lori Daybell and other cases that I followed. But this was my first case that I followed.
are you from the South originally? You have a little bit of a Southern accent.
Yes, I'm originally from South Carolina.
Oh, okay. Well, you have a very nice accent. They say
Thanks.
once people,
And
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, they say once you go move down south from somewhere else and pick up that accent, everybody picks it up. It's hard to get rid of it. Although Tom Fleming is from Massachusetts, and he moved down. He's been down in North Carolina now for, I don't know, about 13 years, maybe more, maybe 15 years. And he has not picked up any Southern accent at all. He still has a Massachusetts accent.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever get rid of this South Carolina accent because I still have to go down south because that's where
Mhm.
my family is, and my children. So I don't think I'll ever get rid of it, even though I will be living up here probably for the rest of my life. I don't want to go back down south.
Mhm. Okay, that's good. So I don't, you know, you were saying that you didn't believe, that you never believed in the conspiracy theory on this. So I will say that definitely okay. So just to make sure people, so it looks like the members is actually visible to people in the public. It's just only members can comment on it. So still working out the bugs on the way to set this up. So just be aware that anybody else can see you, and maybe we'll take down the video after the show so that nobody's going to try to make any clips of anybody or something like that. But just be aware, anybody, so they can see you. That just nobody else can comment except for members. So I did
I don't
intend to try to
care.
set it up. Okay, that's good then. I do want to set it up as a members only show, and apparently I failed to set that up properly. But in the future we'll try to
I
get
will
that.
give my opinion to anybody that. I mean, if you broke can't read, I'm going to give you my opinion, and I'm very
Mhm.
opinionated, so I have no problem. If you want to take pictures or whatever, I don't care.
Okay. All right. Very good. So yeah, for me, when I first heard about this case, which was with Turtle Boy's article, there were definitely a lot of things that made me think there might be something going on. So I actually started a series called Framed with a question mark. So in other words, maybe there's a conspiracy here. So I was, fully on the fence for the first few months of this case. So I definitely thought there were some odd things. Once when in the early days when I thought that 227 was a certainty, that just data was data, I was like, well, if Jen McCabe had made that search at 227, then certainly it's the case that she knew that John was either already dying on the lawn or soon would be. So in those early months before we got to question things, I definitely was open to it. I don't know. Were you, I don't know, when did you first start covering it, Sonny? When were you open to it at any point?
Yeah, I really thought that she was probably, that there was definitely something up. I think what really got my attention, I just remembered when you were talking about that, is that it was Morrissey's what does Turtle Boy call it? His prison, his his address to the public, like asking them to stop harassing. And
Oh,
I had
that was the
never
beginning for
seen,
you. Okay. All right. Yeah.
yeah, I had never seen anything like that. I was like, that is effed up. Like, what's going on? And that's what got my attention. I just remembered. So
Mhm.
yeah, I totally went into it thinking that she was probably, like, I was giving her the benefit of the doubt, but I literally really just started paying attention to it the first day of trial, and already on that first day I was already realizing that it was just a big PR campaign. And oh, like I watched that first day, like the opening statements, once with Court TV, completely unbiased, just straight, no commentary. And then I watched it with you, and I watched it with Melanie Little. And I actually thought Melanie Little was legit that first day. And I did my very first, I just like felt the need to kind of like voice journal it. And so I
Mhm.
talked about it. And that's actually I did it on my phone. I recorded my thoughts from that day, and then I just put it on YouTube, and that was my first one. And then I held off until I figured out how deep this was, and I got so infuriated about it.
Mhm.
And I was like, I was mad about how they were treating all of the people, but also how much the public had been bamboozled. And I'm watching them, you know, get all this money from the public and people leaving their jobs and losing relationships and traveling from different countries to come and watch this because they really believed in all of their lies. And it just makes me really sad that people can do this stuff and like how many lives that they're affecting, and they just are banking off of it. And all of these YouTube creators that do it, I'm like, where's your integrity? It's just disgusting to me. It makes me want to vomit.
That's one of the things that really bothers me too, is that even if you want to cover this, like, see, Court TV, I think they try to exploit the conspiracy interest to a degree, but at least they're covering it from both sides, right? And
Yeah.
but we're just not seeing that on 99% of the YouTube channels, whether they're lawyers that are covering it or just ordinary content creators like me. I covered it from both sides. I still cover it from both sides. Obviously, after a year and a half and after a trial, I've drawn conclusions. But I still look at every single individual piece of evidence objectively. And I'm
Yeah.
still not convinced. I'm not convinced about the second degree aspect of this too, other than the fact
Oh, I'm
that she
totally convinced of that. It just
yeah.
drives me crazy that you all say that.
Because the
Like, I'm
evidence is
telling
just
you,
not beyond a reasonable doubt on that. That's
you,
I'm not saying that it's wrong for someone to believe that there's enough evidence that in their mind they believe she knew but it's just I'm don't believe there's
I
evidence
just,
beyond a reasonable doubt on that.
I
Yeah.
just don't buy that she, um, didn't hear her. Like, there's no way with all of her systems in that vehicle that she didn't know that and then plus, I mean, you think about hitting something, just think about like backing into your garbage can out of your driveway. And that you're going to hear that, you're going to feel that. And there's a lot of leakage in her language too about like when she does these interviews, I didn't hurt a hair on his head, and there was a hair of his on her vehicle. And what was the other thing that I just caught another one. Oh crap. I got to think of it. It was a really good one too. Like she said something that
But
she just
right.
leaks a lot. But I just
Those
can't
things,
buy
but
that.
those things all require a lot of interpretation on our part instead of just something you could look at. So, for instance, will we say why
I
didn't
think
she?
it's common sense though. That's common sense to me. You can't I
No,
can't.
why would you? All right, so let me just play it from the other side, Sonny. Why would you? If you're going to ask the question, why didn't Karen hear the alarms going off when she put it in reverse? We don't know what someone hears and what they don't hear, but you could also ask the question, why didn't none of the witnesses in the car see John on the lawn when they drove by?
Because there's no lights out there. There's no
You
street lights.
you have headlights.
Yeah, you
on your
have
car.
headlights, but you're not driving away from the crimes or from the house. I was gonna call it is a crime scene, but you're not driving away from there. They've been drinking all night. They watched them pull up and thought that they got, probably assumed they got in an argument because they know their relationship or whatever. Maybe she had to go to the bathroom or whatever the situation was. They thought that they left. So they weren't like, obviously, if they thought something happened, they'd go out there. So they're getting in their vehicles after drinking all night. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, jurors are humans and we all have life experiences, and you're supposed to bring your life experience, like your common sense. Yes, there's data and factual evidence, but in situations like this, like, you can't, like, in any situation where somebody commits a crime like this, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have actual like video proof of somebody actually committing M. And therefore, you have to, like, you're very good at all the analytical stuff, and that is all very important to get you to your first, whatever the manslaughter or whatever, vehicular manslaughter. But then you say to yourself, like, I have a vehicle that beeps at me, and my vehicle is an Lexus, and I know the system that mine does. Like, if I am going to pull over into a different lane and there's a vehicle within like 30 feet of me, my vehicle beeps at me like crazy. So,
Well,
I mean, like
what do you
that.
think about the fact? What do you think about the fact that seemingly most or all of the jurors, if the information is accurate, did not believe there was enough evidence to justify a second-degree charge, or
because
even
I
leaving the
think
scene of the accident charge.
because I have come to my very strong opinion based on all of my because I watched you and all of these other, you know, I did my I did because I watched you and all of these other, you know, I did my I did I don't know why I'm
getting a little bit
echoing.
do you have a headset on, or can you put speakers that?
I don't know why I'm echoing.
So you're getting feedback. If you have a speaker near you, it's picking up and going through the. You know what I'm saying? Because you're listening to the channel, and then the
Who,
microphone is
me?
picking that up. You're not
No,
talking
it's
at the moment,
me.
Jen, but Sonny, yeah. So if you have a headset that you can put on, or earbuds or something like that, then I'll get rid of it.
I know
might
I
have-
had to turn. I was watching it on TV, and I had to pause the YouTube, and that's why I was having the feedback.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's
I might have to. Can I pop out and pop back in, Kevin? Because I don't
yes,
have.
yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You can do that. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so anybody that wants to come on, just be aware. Try to have a headset hooked up or some earbuds or something. Jen, I'm still getting some feedback from your end too. You don't do you
Okay,
hear me,
I'm
Jen?
sorry. I don't have a headset, so
That's okay.
I don't have a
don't
headset,
worry.
so
We'll do it again, though, Jen. Don't worry. It was good to have you here, and so thank you very much for coming. And next time you'll get some kind of a little headset, little something like these that plug in. You can do that too. Because we're getting a real bad feedback.
okay,
here.
no problem.
Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Jen.
Bye. Good to see
Bye,
you.
Jen. Why no backup camera? I don't know what you mean. RL, what do you mean a backup camera? Am I not visible? I don't know. But thank you, Jen. Oh, we got another guest joining us here. Jen, we will definitely have you back. We'll figure out the headset problem. Me and you will talk on the side. Hey, man.
Hey, Kev. It's my name's Anthony. I go by you, Auntie, on YouTube. My alias.
Oh, okay. Hey, Anthony. Nice to meet you,
How's
man.
it going? Yeah.
Happy Friday,
did,
brother.
Yeah, you too. Hey. I'm
Oh, all right. Excellent.
You
Excellent.
said,
Excellent.
you know, we could have beers in the post show, right?
Tom Fleming is a fan of the Busch Light.
Yeah, I was a fan of those in college. So real quick, I just wanted to say, potentially on behalf of a lot of the viewers, I really appreciate everything you do. I think that you've built a really strong community, and there's like a sense of peace when we do these. You do these live chats. Like I'll be watching TV. I'll be watching like a game, the Celtics, but I'll mute that and I'll listen to this, and it's become very comforting. So I just want to say thank you for doing this. I know a lot of the viewers probably appreciate it as well, but I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Hey, do you have a Celtic score?
I didn't catch it. I was following. I was actually watching some hockey tonight, but I
Okay.
heard they were losing.
Right before I started the show, they were down by 2. So, but it was
All right.
with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. So I
Yeah.
don't know where it is now.
I know. I'll have to see. But yeah, just getting to the case, it is. It's a very fascinating look into what I find really interesting about it is looking into Karen's psyche. I think it's so interesting, and you do a good job of breaking down other cases and like what a person's thinking or someone being a sociopath. It's just like she just does not seem like a normal person to me. So I find it so interesting that she would lie and then double down and triple down. It really is kind of scary to me. That's.
Do you think she believes her story at this point?
Yes. Yeah, she's all in. She's committed. In the back of her head, she knows what happened, but she's like, I'm gonna go down with the ship. You know, I'm not gonna give in. And I did watch the not to switch gears, but the John Benet Ramsey documentary just the other night, and I was thinking about that. That one's crazy too because there's
Puzzle, huh?
so many different factors. The ransom note is like the biggest thing that stands out because it's just like
Yeah.
so bizarre. But I was thinking about, let's say it was the mother. It kind of reminded me of Karen in a way that this mother had to double and triple down and just hold this insane lie, until she eventually, I don't want to, no spoilers, but that's kind of reminded me of that, of like, it really takes, I don't want to say crazy, but you've got to be so mental to just triple down on, I can't be held responsible. I cannot take responsibility. I don't want to go to prison. So I'm just going to ruin people's lives. I find it so interesting that people, because I think I would be like, you know what, I can't hold this lie anymore. I got to come out with the truth. I think I have a conscience. I don't think Karen does.
Do you see any other signs of odd behavior, like the impulse control which is, and I'm not diagnosing, I'm not a psychologist, so no amateur should ever do it, and no professional psychologist would do it based on this. But impulse control is a lack of impulse control is a major symptom of psychopathy. And doesn't mean that someone is a monster. 2% of the population is born with a psychopathic brain, and many of them go on to become doctors, brain surgeons, CEOs, because they're not handicapped by a feeling of empathy. And usually they're above average intelligent, and they're good at imitating people in short bursts and stuff like that. They mimic ordinary human behavior. It can be an advantage to them. I don't know. She seems to, some of the things that she's done suggest a lack of empathy, like you're talking about. And then there's also the impulse control.
So you want to know what really jumped out at me? Because I watched the whole trial. Luckily I work an office job, so like I have it on in the background as I do my normal work. So it's kind of nice. But so what really jumped out to me in the trial was when Higgins was on the stand, and he talked about when he drove, the weed whacker nickname, and he drove by her house and said, "Hey," or he shouted her name, and her instant reaction was, "Fuck you, my husband, not your husband, is a Boston cop." Just scream that. That was the person just beeped. I know when I'm doing the bushes, if I'm mowing the yard, someone beeps, I'm always like, oh, it's probably someone I know. I'm happy, not right to like, I'm going to kill you. I shouldn't say, you know what I mean? But she was just like so mad. And I still think the way she threw away that John was her husband when he was not at all, you know what I mean? So, it shows.
Well, I guess we could, in her defense, we could say that she might have been intimidated. Brian Higgins is a very large guy, so you're out there, and all of a sudden, some big dude goes by. I don't know. Could we say that, or
no?
I would think so.
No, because haven't you seen the police reports of her freaking out at her neighbors about their dog barking, and she wouldn't answer the door when the cops came, and like she is. You're right. I'm not a psychologist, but I love psychology. I totally agree with your assessment, sir. I can't see your name.
My name's
Anthony.
Anthony. Okay. My brother's name is Tony, so that's good. I can remember that.
Well, yeah.
Excellent. So I am also fascinated with psychology, which is I think why I'm so interested in true crime, because I'm always trying to figure out the motives and why people do what they do, and I've always been obsessed with psychology. So yeah, and that's what horrifies me so much, because people do not see how this woman is so dangerous. She is a dangerous person, and the fact that she continues, like, it's one thing to have a defense and fight a solid defense in a court of law that is whatever, but she has ruined people's lives. She has ruined Colin's life. She took his scholarship, his first year of college, mental health. These children are going to mental health counselors because of all of the mental anguish and emotional anguish and probably spiritual anguish that they are going through. Proctor has been completely disgraced, And that man did nothing except exactly what I would do. This woman killed her boyfriend. If that is not a time to call a person a cunt, I don't know when is. He knows she did it. He was on his personal phone. The fact that the feds got involved with this blows my mind. And the fact that I saw Josh Levy today calling out corruption again makes me want to punch that man in the face. I cannot believe the crap that he's doing. And
I've never seen
like
a
the
U.S.
whole,
attorney love a press conference more than that guy, especially in the
and
last
he,
year since this is breaking out. I've never,
it's
usually the U.S.
disgusting.
attorney is invisible, and this guy's doing a press conference every month. I've never seen
And
anything
he,
like it.
and he's, yeah, and he's corrupt. Like, he loves being the person that's like, we're rooting out corruption. He's like, you know, bragging. Oh, it's not. The last one was the worst when he used Alan Jackson's words and was like, what did he say? It was Alan Jackson's words too. Fuck, I can't remember.
I'm not sure what you're referencing.
It was like 3 or 4 words that he used in the press conference. Not "we ain't got no quit." It was something he used in court. But anyway, he used words that Alan Jackson used that were his words, and it was like a nod to that team. I mean, it's so disgusting. It just infuriates me. And
Well,
the
I
fact
would
that
add
all
this
of
too. So Josh Levy did something pretty much unprecedented. I have talked to a lot of other former federal cops, and
yeah,
nobody
the grand
knows of an
jury.
example where the U.S. attorney himself did the questioning of the witnesses before the federal grand jury. But let's make it
And with
worse.
and yeah,
He not only questioned the witnesses, he did this knowing at the time that those witnesses were being harassed by a mob that was connected to the defendant, directly connected to the defendant. But in addition, let's throw the last thing in here. To question those
mm-hmm.
witnesses, he had a blown up image of TB Daily News, Turtle Boy's blog, and was using that so they could see that. So that's like basically saying, here, I'm the powerful U.S. attorney. I'm questioning you, and that's who I'm in bed with, the guy that's persecuting you. That was an act of intimidation himself, if you ask me, to do that. It's
Exactly.
just stunning.
And
What do you think about
and
that, Anthony?
Well, I was going to say real quick, going back to Alan Jackson. Again, Kevin, I kind of cover this case like you. I really try to listen to both sides and like, hey, listen, I get, the butt dials and the 227. Like, you're allowed to believe what you want to believe. And I like how you talked about Nick Rocco just kind of being like, he's a civil guy. He's not Turtle Boy, right? But
Right.
If I'm going to give credit to the defense, like, Alan Jackson is phenomenal. He is such a good lawyer. That's why he's hired by these celebrities. His theatrics, like, he's good at, muddying the water and stirring the pot. Like, when he was yelling cunt and yelling these things in the courtroom, like, he's just trying to control the whole thing. Like, he's saying it so loud that, like, the jury will just remember that, but I will say, I give him credit. I think he's really good. But when Yannetti gets up, I don't feel the same power, I don't buy it as much. But Alan is like, he's like an actor, and he's very good at his job. So I will give them credit on that.
see, I have to disagree completely. When he was doing that, I was like, oh my God, like, that's so disgusting. I was so turned off by everything that he did. Like, if I was a juror, I would have been just like, I would have been horrified sitting there listening to him.
Yeah, I know. I thought he took it too
Like,
far. Like, that's the one time where I was like, all right, like, slow it down. But
like,
he was generally
threaten
good.
all of these witnesses and like treat them like that on the stand. Hell to the no. I would have been horrified. Like, I think he would be a good soap opera actor. I think he is a very bad actor. I think it's disgusting. I don't enjoy watching it. It infuriates me to listen to people be like,
no, you're right. But something about him, I'm like, because again, when you're watching this trial, it is like watching a soap opera. You know what I mean? At times, like, I'm like, and especially this trial, it was so bizarre. Like, some of the things they were talking about, it was just like a wild, like the Higgins text and like everything about it was like, it's a kind of like a love triangle too. It's just such a bizarre
yeah,
case
but it
and so
wasn't
much
really
depth.
because because she kissed him one time. It wasn't really a love triangle. You could tell by his text that he was like, what are you doing? This is so weird. Like, I don't
But weird
believe
though.
you.
But you could tell he was still tempted. You know, he didn't know what to do. Because I think he genuinely liked John. And
Yeah, he was attracted to Karen, but he liked John and he was trying to figure out what the hell I
yeah,
think he was interested in her psyche too. Like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
he's an investigator.
Yeah, he knows. He knew. He was like, "This is bizarre." Like, because you could tell he kept like prying, like, "What are you doing?" But you could tell there was temptation there too. You know.
Right.
I think there's a little bit of truth, in my opinion, from both of what you're saying here. So I believe that Jackson is obviously he's a brilliant criminal attorney who is excellent at cross-examination. I also agree with Sonny though, where and Anthony, you might agree with this too, but when you try to apply that kind of really rough cross-examination where you're trying to trip up the witness on the stand, and when you're doing that to regular people that aren't accused of a crime, that have no criminal history, and you're trying to make them look like murderers, I think that tends to backfire and piss off the jury, you know?
Yeah.
So I think,
And especially when he's doing it to every single witness. Like, those
right.
are when you do that in a court of law, like, you pick your battles, like you do that when there's a person on the stand that you pick a person. You don't pick every single person that's testifying in that trial. That was just horrifying to me. That was part of the reason where I was like, oh my God, like, the fact that what Anthony said, like, I totally get that, but I am such an empath person that I cannot get behind this whole, like, it's fun and it's dramatic and this is a master class in, defense and all this. Like, no, these are people's lives. Like, they are just trying to mourn the loss of their friend, and they haven't been able to do that. Their lives have been completely ruined, and now you're sitting up here like doing it more to them. Like, I would be like, and then the thing too was like what Anthony was saying too. It's like, I get how people, if you don't do your research and you literally only watch the trial and you don't try, like how the lawyer, goes, well, I'm just watching it like a juror and I don't want to know any of the backstory. It's like, if you're going to report on this, then it's your responsibility as a professional. If you're going to do that, then you need to actually read the court documents, in my personal opinion. I think that's really reckless. But like, the fact, if you don't know why Jen McCabe is behaving the way she's behaving, yeah, that looks sus. But because I did my research and knew why she was so defensive, with every good reason to be defensive, I'm like, I'm cheering her on, but then I hear the other side saying, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. If you believe that she's guilty and you're going in it with that mindset and you're not even taking the time to understand the other side of the argument, I can see why you would think that she's suspect just based on the fact that she's so defensive, because nobody that's innocent is going to act, so defensive on the stand. And that's why I thought, I really think the fact that I hope they do join Turtle Boy's case with hers, because I think that'll be a benefit. I was upset that they didn't do it in the first trial. I think it will benefit the Commonwealth because it will expose why she's so it'll expose why she's not going to let Alan Jackson gaslight her and twist her words, because that's all that they've done from day one, which is why their lives have been in such chaos. So she's up there trying to
I don't know
be
if you
mama
guys heard
bear.
it. I'm not sure if you guys heard on the first show, but along the lines of this, a defense attorney's obligation is to defend their client with the utmost vigor, right? But where are the lines there? This is something I've tried to discuss this with Kevin Mahoney, and it doesn't seem to be clear.
It's
I could
criminal.
not do what David Yannetti did and stand there, and I understand and try to portray Allie McCabe as though she's an accomplice in murder by misreading her data on which was all she did was go around and pick people up and give them a ride home and rescue a dog, a stray dog on the night of a storm. But because her phone is reaching out when she gets home to a cell tower, they're able to take that and make it seem like, and Yannetti knew, I could tell in his face, he's not inhuman. He did know that he was crossing a
Yeah.
line. What he was doing was he has his own daughters, and he knows he's sitting there destroying this innocent girl that's going to now go through life, for many people, thinking she's part of a murder. Where are the lines here that these people can't? Alan Jackson, when he's cross-examining Jen McCabe, trying to make her say out loud that she made the search at 227 because he's having to read it that's on the form up there, and her understandably not wanting to say it. Is she
Yeah,
required
she's
to
like, I don't
spit out?
know.
Is this the law? She's required to spit out this nonsense on the stand that she knows is nonsense. But Jackson was smart enough to know that was going to trigger her, right? So
Yeah.
what do you think about that, Anthony?
Yeah, and the thing is I do think Jen McCabe was terrific on the stand. I thought she was believable, but I always think it's so funny when the other side is like, oh, like she was awful, because I thought she was real. When she looked right at the jury and said, "I'm a witness," like I just thought she was so strong. And I know, and I love when you have Kevin Mahoney on too. He does a great job. He has great insight
Yeah, I
into
like
this
Kevin.
case. Are you going to have him on again?
Nothing's scheduled at the moment.
Okay.
Lawyers get busy with their trials. They go
Yeah,
through
maybe the
slow
next
periods
trial.
and busy periods,
You probably
but
can't.
yeah.
The way that everybody's getting their lives destroyed, like seriously, I give him props for doing what he did. I mean, I just think everybody, in that area that has a family that they need to take care of, like it's totally understandable that they can't talk on it, because look at what they like. Literally, Colin McCabe left college, or Colin Albert left college and left his football scholarship, which, mind you, not a lot of people get football scholarships in college, and he had to give that up and leave his school because of the harassment that he was getting. 18 years old, this kid. Like, the way that they're not, the way the Commonwealth and even, I like Judge Bev, but she's obviously, I mean, I get that she's defense orientated, which normally I think is really good, but she let them get away with too much, and she did not protect her witnesses. Like, she should not have allowed most of that crap. That was ridiculous.
I think most of it
And
was inevitable, but I don't think she should have ever allowed Turtle Boy in court. I think she had enough ground to not have him in there. But everything else, you don't want to. If the prosecution
I understand
loses,
the appeal and stuff.
If the prosecution loses, they can't appeal because of double jeopardy. But when the defense loses, so if their client is committed, is found guilty, then they're going to appeal. So
I understand all that, but she let them. I mean, she said, like, she even told him in the pre-trial, like, look, dude, like, give me a reason to let you have this third party. Like, I'm looking at this and there is nothing here that you can do third party on. And she still let him do it. Like,
well, what she said, what she said was, I'm going to let you develop it during trial. And that's normal. And that's what they did, was try. So she didn't let them come out with a theory.
Develop it. When they said
she wasn't allowed to come out with it. The defense was not allowed to say in their opening statements, like they did in the document that I just read here, that they believed that Jen McCabe and Brian Albert killed John. So they weren't allowed to do that. But what they were allowed to do,
they came out and said, Karen Reed was framed.
You're very exuberant. You're very smart. Just let me finish the sentence if it's okay. What they did was allow them to develop it, which is to cast suspicion on these questions and stuff like that, on these witnesses, or say, develop a piece of information and say, so did you make this search at 227? This is what the data shows. There was never going to be a way for them to be denied that.
Hey,
no,
I'm not saying that they
I'm going to jump off. I'm just going to jump off. I want to say, Kev, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. And the Celtics won.
All right. Excellent. Thank you, Anthony. Welcome back sometime.
See you guys.
Thank you, my man.
Bye.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Anthony.
All right,
yeah, I'm not saying they can't develop it.
Sonny, if you like, why don't we take on Elaine's question here? You're happy to take it on. She says, Kevin, what do you think Hank Brennan has to prove that Karen Reed hit John? What do you think about that?
How? What's
So can you? I don't know if you could see it on the screen, but the question is, what do you think Hank Brennan has to prove in order to show that Karen Reed hit John O'Keefe?
Like I was saying earlier, I think to me again, like you have all the data, which I'm hoping that, this chip on that they're doing now too. Hopefully, I mean, the SD card is actually supposed to have picture and video and stuff, is from what my research tells me. So who knows? I hope that we get some information on that. But even just what they had in the last trial, the thing that I was saying before I started echoing was that, like, I've had a lot of time to do the research and everything, which is why I feel so passionately that, like, I know 150,000% that this woman did this. But the jury, the way that it came out.
Yeah. So what is he? You told me so let me qualify that a little bit, but just interrupt you just very briefly, Sonny. So what does he have to do to convince the jury?
Well, what I was
convince
going to
12 of
say
them.
was it just came out too convoluted. And so I think when he goes into it this time, I don't think he's going to try to disprove anything. I think he's just going to put on the case, and he's going to have
Yeah.
all of the data that you've talked about, and he's going to be able to show all of that. He's going to
Right.
be able to talk about, I mean, obviously he's hiring a crash reconstructionist that will be able to effectively and easily convey a picture to the jury of what most likely happened based on an actual accident reconstruction that they're going to do with the tech stream data and the information that they're getting on the chip on. And hopefully they'll have some visual aids, and they'll be able to show the taillight was broken when they went to see the vehicle in the morning for when they checked on the niece. And they're going to be able to have Gretchen Voss's notes now that say that she took off that piece of taillight and put it, like, she took out a piece
They
of
already had
taillight.
that. They did already have that part, but they chose not to present it for some reason.
Yeah, well, I think Hank's going to present that too, or like obviously so that's proof right there that her taillight was broken. I mean, it's in her own words. Lally just
Right.
didn't do a good job in presenting all of the facts. And so because he was trying to disprove it so much. So I think just going into it with the actual Commonwealth's case and doing it in a streamlined way, which obviously Hank Brennan is focused on. He's told us that. He's eliminating witnesses. He's going to streamline the case.
Mhm.
He wants to be able to do this as quickly as possible.
Lally came out in the opening statements and said John was killed at, I believe he said 12:45.
Yeah.
And then the closing statement said 12:30. And of course, the reality is it was 12:32 in some seconds. So now there may be some reasons where you're fudging that a little bit with the jury and saying around. So for instance, if he says that John was killed at 12:32 in say 10 seconds, the problem is now you have to explain how Karen's phone connected to John's Wi-Fi at 12:36. According to Google Maps, it's like a 6-minute journey. Now, in reality is we've had people tested. No, it's actually only going to be 4 minutes at that time of night. Just driving even just a little bit fast, just averaging 35 miles an hour. We don't know what route she took, but down Dedham Street and on Pleasant Street, the two longest stretches, there's no stop signs. So it'd be pretty easy to drive fast. But that may be a reason why he chose to say it was around 12:30 because 12:32 is around 12:30. But certainly the jury was going to notice when he opened by saying 12:45 and closed by saying 12:30. You can't just assume the jury won't notice that, So
Yeah, but I think too. I mean, I think it was. Yeah, that was just the problem. I mean, it was a one-man show with basically. I mean, they had 3 high-priced attorneys, plus Karen was like an active. I mean, it was basically 4 attorneys, plus they had the whole world on the internet, literally as part of the defense team, doing research for them, conducting all of these. Every time they do a show to present their, the way that the defense. So they're practicing all of their things to see what the public will buy for 2 years, and then they're refining it and refining it and refining it. So by the time it went to trial, they had a pretty refined story of what the public will actually buy. And then there are all these weird things. And I think that because Because like innocence fraud campaigns, like the one that was on Netflix with that guy making a murderer guy, the
Mhm.
prosecutor for that, I think his name was Ken. When he went to prove the case, he did trying to disprove it. And so I'm wondering if Lally got some, I don't know. I just think it's tough to say how to attack that,
I,
because I don't think that
I
they
would keep it.
thought that.
I would keep it fairly simple. So, first problem, as Ann says, the timeline is bulletproof. But the thing is, Trooper Paul only had the vehicle data, and Trooper Garino had John's phone data. So there was no expert witness to unite that, and it's the correlation between those two that is truly bulletproof. And yes, in the closing arguments, Larry talked about it a little bit, but that's too late because you have to have had an expert witness point that out before the prosecution rests their case. And so that's a big thing that has to be done there. Secondly, visual displays. Use some graphics. People are visual. Put up some
Yeah,
displays like the one that Chicks on the Bricks helped me make that show that timeline there. Put up some visual displays that show the timeline that really shows there was no opportunity to get at that vehicle and plant that evidence. Some graphs like that. And finally, three, look, you cannot get a conviction if you don't give a reasonable explanation to the jury as to what happened in the accident and the combination of John's injuries and lack of injuries with the damage to the vehicle. You have to explain that. And it can't
yeah,
be, it has to be a fairly convincing explanation or you're not going to win.
yeah. I think that I mean, I have full confidence in Hank. I mean, just the little bit that we've seen him, I have no problem believing that he's going to be able to tackle this with grace and dignity. I mean, he's gonna come across classy. He's not going to be attacking anybody. He's not even going to try to be attacking Karen, to be quite honest. Like he's definitely not an emotional freak like I am. He's a lot more like you and able to present just the facts. And he's very confident. And let me say this too. He is very confident in that second degree. So trust me, I'm confident in him getting that second degree. I can tell he's confident. He knows that she knows.
Well, we'll get a taste on next week, next Thursday, on how he does with a witness. So this will be with an expert witness with Dr. Russell, because he'll be questioning her. So we haven't got to see anything yet, just him calmly talking to the judge, and that's fine. But you really want to see what somebody does with a witness to get a real sense of it. Everybody says this guy's one of the best, so I have no reason to doubt that. Except
Yeah.
my default, especially through the experience of this case, is to be somewhat skeptical all the time and so now what we've seen so far is he's argued that they should have been able to get the phones of Mr. and Mrs. Reed. That did not succeed, was unlikely to succeed.
Well, let me
And
tell you
now,
why I think and he didn't meet, what is that called? The lamb prong. He
right,
didn't meet that standard. But
right.
I think the big thing is that he told Kanoni, look, like I get that we have Karen's data, but we have so much retracted out of that. There's something in there. I really feel like there's something in there that he knows that's in there, but he can't get through Karen's because of, I don't know what the deal is, but so I don't know.
There's no, like, he tried to argue that the taint team might have removed it, but that's unlikely. The taint team was just taking out attorney-client privilege stuff. So I really didn't care if he got the phone data. I didn't think it was likely to really reveal much. But really all it does is they're going to want to ask Mr. Reed, why didn't anybody take the call from Karen? And see, they're going to have to try to argue that the fact that Karen called at that time of night was an indication that she was worried, that she knew was in trouble. And
Yeah.
so there's a chance that Mr. Reed will say, she did that all the time. Don't worry about it. And so they wanted to be able to show, well, she didn't do it in the last month,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, see, I think, and that's what I was saying about, like you have all the bulletproof data, like the analytics and stuff that you're very good at, and all of the visual aids, like that is I'm an artist, so I totally am a visual person, but I also know based on all of the court stuff and investigation stuff I watch is that people, like especially juries, and especially in a state that you can't even get readbacks or anything, like you are really stuck with only your notes. And so
Right. No transcript.
like
Yeah.
yeah, so like you really, I mean, I I actually called, I'm gonna tell you a secret. I called Lally after this first trial and I left him a message and I was like, look, dude, like I have mad respect for you. You did an awesome job. You're a one-man show against like freaking 3 high-power attorneys. Da, da, da. I'm like, but listen, what you need to do in that next trial is you need to use voice inflections. Like if you're trying to make a point, you need to repeat it. You need to make sure the jury hears it. You need to
Make sure your mic is working.
Yeah, like you like don't I wonder if he has a little bit of maybe some autism or something, because he just doesn't have any like,
Oh,
he reminds me of
no.
the teacher on like what do you call it, Beavis, what, no, South Park, the teacher. Did you ever watch South Park when he was like, and today we're gonna talk about, like he was very
Yeah.
monotone,
Or
but it
going
just,
back to Peanuts. Oh, wah, 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 wah.
yeah,
Charlie Brown
voice
stuff. So
inflections, repeat your points that are very important, and use lots of visual aids, like exactly what, like the things that you had Chicks on the Brick and stuff do. Like those are so important. You've got to lay it, like he did that. I kept praying for that in the closing, and he did finally do that. It just wasn't, I don't feel like he did quite enough, but I feel like the visual aid of the car, that was really good. And then, the timeline, I mean, it was good. It was good. It just could be better. But yeah, I feel like
right.
that will be
Right.
huge.
All right. So I've been on since 7:30. So I guess I'll just run a couple of quick questions by you. So of the YouTube content creators, probably most of who they are that are covering this case, which ones do you find the most annoying?
Oh my God. The Glarer, Brian on LTL. Betero is not a content creator, but if I have to listen to that guy, I want to poke my eyes out. I mean, Turtle Boy is just Turtle Boy. He doesn't even really bother me because it's like you just expect all that crap from him once you
Yeah.
know what he is. But I honestly, I feel like, well, and Melanie Little, I just want to punch her in the face half the time. So Melanie
Yeah.
Little, the
Yeah.
Glare, and Brian, I think, are the most annoying ones.
Yeah. It's too bad with Melanie too, because I think that if she just would at least have tried to take a both sides kind of view of this, she probably could have done a good job, but she never did. She just jumped on the conspiracy, knowing that it was going to get her the most views, and never once that I know of have asked an objective question. And she even had a guest on her show, a medical examiner, that said those wounds are
Mm-hmm.
not dog bites, but
Yep.
it didn't cause her to break out in any kind of introspection. Am I covering this wrong? No. I mean, it's just I just find that really annoying. So
Well,
I mean,
see,
you
that's
kind
why.
of, but you
That's why
expect the
when I,
Galera, right? You expect LTL. These are guys that are not lawyers,
yeah.
and but someone with a degree in law, you expect them to be a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more introspective, a little bit more trying to ask questions
Plus,
from both sides.
she touts herself as a victim's advocate, which makes me crazy too. Oh, and Nurse Kim. Oh my God, that woman drives me absolutely nuts. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, the thing of it is Melanie is clearly like on the take. Like she's doing this. She is part of the conspiracy, and I figured that out day one because, well, not day one, probably day 2 or day 3, because I'd watch it on Court TV or on your channel, and they would bring something out on the trial, and I would hear it and be like, okay, I'm going to go see, because I was trying to figure out if Melanie was being authentic. And so then I would go to her channel and rewind it and watch that part to see what she did. And it was just like, she would just be like, just like literally pretend it didn't happen, just like they do now, like the whole 227 and the dot, like all this crap was disproven already. But apparently, now it's not disproven. It's just ridiculous. They just pretend like it didn't happen, and I just find that completely obnoxious. Just
Speaking of Nurse
gaslighting.
Kim, so let me ask you another question then. Do you know what the free Karen Reed face is?
Oh, yeah, I've watched your show. You do that where they just kind of like look at you because they don't recognize, they're like, they've never heard the actual intellectual explanation for the oddities in the case. They're like,
Yeah,
oh,
and they
shit,
can't
that makes
and they
sense.
can't handle it. So literally, like you get this zombie look where every muscle in the face for about a half a second goes dead. It's a really
Yeah,
unique kind of look. It's like, and their eyes
yeah,
go dead, and then they
and
pop back, but they've already forgotten what you said
yeah. And then they just
because they
get
can't handle it
defensive. They
because
get
they can't
defensive,
handle the
and then
explanation. Yeah.
yeah, and then they start touting one of their go-to lines about, well, why didn't they see him in the yard, or why did they butt dial each other, or why did they like they just
I think it's
ignore
very
their
much what you see with like cult people, right? Like they kind of have
very
that
much.
blank. If you try to explain to them why what they're in is a cult, they get this blank look on their face because their brain is actively shutting down anything that threatens their self-view. So you get
Mm-hmm.
that dead look on your face.
Well, and
And
that's another reason why it bothers me so much. I mean, on my YouTube channel, I'm like, listen, guys, like, I go off on my tangents, but I'm like, look, like you got those of you that actually factually believe that this woman is legitimately being railroaded and she's factually innocent. I say to them, I am always here for a soft place to land. I'm open to answer any questions about the oddities of the case, and like, just know that obviously I have my strong opinions, but you are welcome to ask me anything. And because I am legitimately concerned about these people that
mm,
have a conscience and that legitimately believe it, because they are brainwashed. And so if
yeah,
they ever are able to see reality, if they actually can see reality in this, it is going to be traumatic for them.
mhm,
And that's part
yep,
of the disgust that I have in this case. I mean, the social part of this, the actual abuse that's happening to everybody except the defendant, is the part that absolutely has me gripped, because it
mhm.
infuriates me, it saddens me, it frustrates me, it literally makes me cry. I mean, it's just awful.
Yeah, that's like for me, one of the things that I guess there's a couple of things that similar to what you're saying. So ever since I was a kid, when I see someone being bullied, I just I have a
Yep.
powerful reaction to it. I was like that in the first grade, and I saw a handicapped girl getting bullied by the boys, and it just and I stood up with her to kind of fight
Yep.
them off, and
Me
then she ended
too.
up
That's how
then
I've always been.
she ended up calling me every night for about a month after that. I don't know how she
Yeah.
got my number, but it was a
That's
different
how I've
time
always
back then.
been
This
too.
this was the
I
early
mean, my
70s. It was, so but
my brother's 2 years, 3 years, 2.5 years older than I am, and I was his, like, he kind of would I mean, neither of us were popular. I was like a naughty kid, and he was just kind of like, we're both farm kids, so
mm,
he was just a quiet, shy farm boy and just went home after school and whatever. But anyway, like, he'd get picked on, and I mean, I just would not stand for that shit. I mean, even I remember one time we were in Hardee's, and my cousin was saying shit, like, my cousin and him were like brothers. They were that tight. And as like, and then and I was close to my cousin too, but they were in the same grade. And my cousin said something like just shitty about him when my brother turned his back and wasn't listening. And I was like, knock it off. Like, I stood up for him there too. Like, I just don't take that shit. I just don't. Like, if
yeah.
I was there, I'd probably be in jail, because I would just not allow this. I would just stand up to these people, and I would probably get into some altercations. That's why I'm like horrified, even by, like, when Turtle Boy did that to Jill Daniels. I'm like, how is this man allowed to go? He should not be allowed to even be there. Chris Albert he owns his business right there. Why is he allowed to be in that vicinity? There's no reason. And these people have been harassed and terrorized. And then Jill Daniel, I mean, this is what I say, like nobody's scared of Turtle Boy kicking their butt. They're scared that they're going to pop off because he's going to push them too far. And these people have so much emotional trauma already. And if he, just gets on their last nerve and they pop off, then they could go to jail kind of thing. Like that's what they're scared of. And that's what irritates me, that the Commonwealth isn't protecting them. And when Jill Daniels had that court date, I'm so pissed. Like she didn't even get a protective order. The judge wouldn't even hear about it. I'm like, oh my God, this is horrifying to me. These people don't have protective orders.
Yeah.
If anybody ever deserved a protective order, it's all of these people from that man. Like, and that is the jury selection in this next trial is so important, along with the fact that Turtle Boy cannot be in that courtroom. He cannot be fed information. They need to figure out their leaks, like, because everybody's in danger if he's in there. I mean, he literally is a humongous danger in that courtroom. And if he isn't allowed in there, are they going to have somebody else go in there, and do the same kind of tactics? I mean,
well, I mean, the
scary.
trial's on camera, so everybody can, so everybody can see what's going on anyways. But
no,
he
but
shouldn't
like
be,
getting the jurors' names and stuff, like, isn't he
right.
in there during jury selection? Aren't the reporters allowed to be in there when they're like, don't they give their names and occupations and things like that?
No, I don't think he would have got their names that way. He would be able to sit there and see what they look like and take notes. And that's what he did the whole time, was take notes about what they look like, but he wouldn't know their names. But then you got to understand.
He got that from the defense team because they get
no. Let me explain to you. What happens is because he has a large mob of people following him. Okay. So let's say you have somebody that works wherever they work, a firefighter, right? And someone that works with them is on the jury, even if they're going to tell people at work, right? And even if they don't, people at work are going to figure it out. Oh, this guy's suddenly not available for 9 weeks in the middle of this, in the middle of this, right? And every time we have on the news in the station, he leaves the room. But the bottom line is, people are going to find out. If you're a mother, maybe you have to get a babysitter. There's all kinds of ways. Your family knows, and it spreads. And eventually, because of the size of Turtle Boy's audience, and these people are willing to leak to him, and it's only a matter of time before some of those jurors, someone's going to reach out to Turtle Boy and say, hey, I know the jury foreman. This is who it is. And that's how it works out. It's not like the defense doesn't know their names, and the defense wouldn't give, the defense doesn't know their names. So I think it's just the size of his audience is combined with the fact that eventually enough people know, on a trial. Like that. Not all the names, but some of the names,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why. I literally feel like both of them their bail should be revoked and they should stay in jail until their trial. And that would just help the community in so many ways. Because, I mean, one of Karen's bail requirements is that she doesn't drink, and she's out in public constantly drinking. It's like, okay. She's out with her attorneys having meals, drinking alcohol, and it doesn't matter apparently. It's just like there's so many reasons that when I was young, I mean, I'm an alcoholic in recovery, so I had a lot of legal problems because I'm from a very small town. So once the cops know you, they know you. Plus the cops know my parents, so like they knew of me, but once they knew what I drove and everything, like I was always in trouble. And if there was anything that I did that was, I mean, the cops were on me, like, she doesn't have a license. That's her car. Pull her over. Back to jail, Like, they don't, it's so weird how they don't enforce and that's what I'm saying about Bev, too. Like, I really appreciate her, but I feel like she let Alan Jackson, she'd say, you can't do that. Stop it. And he'd be like, okay. And then he would turn around and Jackson would turn around and do exactly what she told him not to do another 15 times. And she'd let him get away with it. Like, that's contempt. Like, she needs to put her foot down and say, you will not act that way in my courtroom. I said, no, you do it again, you're in contempt, period. That's why I don't
like in My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah, I
right?
don't know. I haven't ever seen that movie, to be honest. I have to watch it because everybody
Oh,
keeps
come
referencing
on.
it. Yeah,
I
I
think
know.
I've seen it like a million times, you know.
I wonder if it's on
It's
Netflix or something.
no, because it's one of those ones that's like if you go and channel surfing on one of those channels that shows the old movies all the time, it's on like 4 times
Yeah,
a
I don't
week.
have any cable. I only have like the
Yeah,
Prime and stuff like that. So I'll have to see if maybe I
yeah.
can find it on
It's
YouTube.
not a serious movie, it's a comedy, so don't,
No, yeah, I got that from your references to it. Like, did
yeah.
I do it? Like that makes
I
sense.
just
But
assumed
what
that
is the
everybody had seen
content?
that one. A really actually, one of my true top 5 favorite movies is a serious law movie called A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
Uh, that
yeah,
that's a really fantastic movie. Everything about that plot is so intricately woven together. It's just such a good movie. And that
yeah,
writer or that screenplay went on to be one of the greatest writers of all time. So
yeah. And
it's good.
I loved Tom Cruise. I was obsessed with him when I was younger. Now he's such a weirdo, but he's still such a good actor. Like he is a
Yeah,
great actor, especially in those
yeah,
kind of. I mean, he's in a lot of my favorites, like Top Gun, and
yeah.
there's
All
another
right.
villain. Okay,
Sonny, I'm getting a little bit of pain from sitting in the chair so long, so I'm gonna have to call it a night. But thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it, and you did a good job. And so we will talk soon. And you get to say goodnight to the audience too, if you want. If you want to say anything,
all right.
give you the last
Good
word.
night, everybody. Thank you for listening to me rant, and check out my channel, Sunny Spirit, on YouTube. I have lots of rants over there, and thank you, Kevin, for allowing me to
You're welcome, Michelle.
conversation.
And that's Sunny Spirit on YouTube. If you search for that, you will find it. It's a pretty new
Yep,
channel too, so go check it out.
yep.
Okay,
So,
thank you,
okay,
Sonny.
Kevin. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. All right, guys. So we're going to end it here, and let's just this is Friday, so they were supposed to do the chip off I think today. I don't have any inside information, and I'm just going by what they said in court a few weeks ago. They were going to do, I believe, the chips were taken off the board and sent down to Texas to have the software upgraded on it or something like that, and then they have to be restarted back onto the board and then brought back to Massachusetts to put into the Lexus. But I have no idea when. And the chip off, I think, was supposed to be today. Don't know if they did that. I don't know how long it'll take us to, or whether we'll find out anything about that until we may not find out until the trial, right? So we'll see. But that could be some really interesting information. But Tom Fleming is still here. January trial date. So she hasn't made a decision on it yet. So she's obviously weighing certain things. The Supreme Judicial Court was supposed to rule on that today, actually. So, but I didn't see anything on it. So I don't know. If they did rule on it. So if they did, that could impact her decision. So if they decided that that Judge Canoni has to, I was going to tell Sunny when she said how to pronounce her name, I was going to say, leave the gun, take the Canoni. Almost a famous line from The Godfather. Anyways, supposedly the SJC, this is the end of the year. So there was an expectation that they might rule on that today, but other people had said they might be months before they rule on it. So we're not really sure. But thank you for being here also, Jennifer. And as always, thanks, Tom. Joe couldn't be here tonight, but she'll be back soon. And everybody enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you all soon.